for legends, for different centuries. The same exact rule killed all of them, and every single one saw it coming. Robespierre had one rule for the revolution: no mercy, no trial delays, no defense for the accused. He wrote the law himself. The law of 22 Prairial stripped every suspect of a lawyer, of witnesses, of any real defense. One question for the jury: guilty or innocent? One sentence if guilty: death. He told the convention this was the only way to protect the Republic, terror in service of virtue. 45 days. Over 1,300 people executed under it. Paris stopped sleeping. His allies begged him to ease the law before it turned on them too. Robespierre refused. Mercy now would look like the revolution had been wrong all along, and he'd never admit that. So the killing continued, until the men sitting next to him in the convention started doing the math on who was next. The next name on the list was his own. They arrested him the same night. No real trial. No time for a defense. Just the law he'd written doing exactly what he'd built it to do, except this time the blade was pointed at him. He'd spent a year telling France that virtue required terror, and that terror required no mercy for anyone. In the end, the guillotine agreed completely. It just didn't recognize its own architect. Napoleon had one rule before invading Russia: never fight a war on two fronts, and never fight in winter. He broke both. On purpose. 600,000 men marched east with him. Full supply lines. Best army in the world. He expected the Russians to stand and fight within weeks. They didn't. They burned their own cities and walked backward, leaving nothing behind: no food, no shelter, not even standing walls. His generals told him to turn back before the snow came. Napoleon refused. Turning back looked like losing, and he'd never lost. So he pushed on into a Moscow that was already burning to the ground when he arrived. There was nothing left to conquer. Just ash, and a winter closing in behind him. The march home killed almost everyone. Cold, starvation, an empire's army reduced to a few tens of thousands of frozen men. He'd built his entire legend on being unbeatable. Russia didn't beat him with an army. It beat him by simply refusing to fight. Seneca had one philosophy he taught for 30 years. Nothing outside your control can hurt you. Not wealth, not power, not even death. Then his student, the Emperor of Rome, sent him a knife. Not a trial, not a chance to speak. Just a soldier at the door and one message: kill yourself. Seneca didn't argue. He was ready. He'd written about this moment his whole life. He cut his wrists. Nothing happened. Too old, blood too slow. He drank poison next, the same one Socrates took. Nothing happened. His body had already gone cold. His friends watched, horrified, as the man who taught them not to fear death couldn't even manage to die. So they carried him to a hot bath, hoping the steam would finish what the blade and the poison couldn't. While he waited, he kept dictating calm sentences about the meaninglessness of fear, right up until his lungs gave out. He'd spent his whole life teaching people that death was nothing to fear. In the end, death itself seemed to agree. It took its time proving him right. Freud had one rule for his best friend's addiction: give him cocaine, as much as he wanted. Not therapy, not rest, just needles whenever the cravings hit. Ernst started seeing bugs under his skin. He'd claw at his arms until they bled, screaming for someone to get them out. His sister begged Freud to stop the treatment. Freud just shook his head. "This isn't the drug," he told her. "This is withdrawal from the morphine. He needs more, not less." She pointed out the obvious problem. Ernst had been on cocaine for months and he was only getting worse, not better. Freud had an answer ready. He always did. He said Ernst simply hadn't taken enough yet. He'd already published a paper calling this drug a miracle. His name was on it. Admitting Ernst was proof he'd been wrong meant admitting the cure he'd built his career on was actually the disease. So Freud kept prescribing it, right up until Ernst was addicted to both drugs at once. The father of psychoanalysis spent the rest of his life studying one thing: how the mind lies to itself to avoid guilt. He just never used his own name as the case study.